One of the considerations we must take into account as we develop a district-wide facilities master plan is the development potential for each of the district's properties. Understanding how much buildable space is available at each site, the environmental constraints, the assessed land value, and the location within the district can give us insight as to how suitable each location might be for future development. Before we dive into this presentation, please note that the North Kingstown High School was not included in this analysis. The reason it was excluded is that the building, at 20 years old, is fairly new, and between the structures, parking, circulation, and playing fields, its site is fully developed, with no potential for additional construction.
This map shows the location of all the existing North Kingstown school facilities. As you can see, the current Wickford Middle School is located more or less central to the district. Hamilton Elementary is the southernmost building, and there is a concentration of facilities in the northern section of the district, including Forest Park Elementary, Quidnessett Elementary, Davisville Middle School, and Davisville Academy.
A critical element of this master plan will be considering the options for Wickford Middle School. As the oldest facility in the district, the building is not suitable for new century learning. You can learn more about the conditions at Wickford Middle School in the facilities walkthrough presentation. In thinking about how Wickford Middle School might be addressed, it is helpful to understand the ideal space needs for a middle school. This chart compares two of the most recent middle schools built in Rhode Island with the proposed space needs of a new middle school that would meet the district enrollment for North Kingstown according to RIDE space standards. You can see that for the site size row at the bottom of the chart, the North Kingstown Middle School option has a range of 12 to 30 acres. This is because, as part of the community engagement process, we will be considering a variety of school sizes for the new middle school. These variations will look at different grade configurations, whether it would be preferable for the district to consolidate to one middle school or to continue on with two separate middle schools, as well as a variety of sports fields options. These options will be further discussed and explored at the upcoming community engagement sessions scheduled for the end of April. In reviewing the development potential for North Kingstown school properties, we looked at 4 different components: site location, land value, site constraints, and the availability of surplus town properties. For the site constraints assessment, we started by looking at each facility individually to understand what environmental factors might limit the ability to develop the properties further. Using the town GIS website, we overlaid floodplains, wetlands, and elevations to understand the property better. Fishing Cove is located on a site encompassing more than 15 acres. However, much of that land is made up of protected wetlands or flood inundation zones. It is also directly adjacent to 9 acres of town-owned land, which may present additional development opportunities. Similarly, Forest Park sits on a 10-acre parcel, but again, much of that area sits within a flood zone, leaving just over 4 acres of developable land. Hamilton Elementary sits on 7 acres. 3.5 of those acres are in flood zones, while the northern portion of the parcel is dedicated to vehicular circulation. In terms of area, Quidnessett Elementary School presents the greatest development opportunity, as it is relatively free of environmental constraints, largely undeveloped, and fairly flat. At 25 acres, it is the second largest parcel owned by the school district. Stony Lane's property is also fairly unencumbered, and at 14 acres provides a reasonable amount of developable space. Davisville Academy is also relatively flat and free of constraints at 9.5 acres. The site for Davisville Middle School provides 7.3 developable acres, with the potential for an additional 5 acres of site as it is located adjacent to a town park. The parkland, however, is limited by flood zones, which break those additional 5 acres up into 2 smaller chunks. The total area of the existing Wickford Middle School site is 12 acres. However, while the 1970s addition could be demolished to make room for a new building, the historic portion of the building is very unlikely to be removed. thus limiting the actual developable parcel to closer to 9 or 10 acres. When we compare all of the North Kingstown School District properties side by side, we see that Quidnesset provides the greatest opportunity with regards to available land for development, followed by Stony Lane and Davisville Academy. Forest Park and Davisville Middle School could also offer additional development opportunities should the adjacent town land be made available for development by the school district. For the land value assessment, we looked at the total valuation provided by the North Kingstown tax assessor's data available on the town GIS site. This data can be useful if the district decides to consolidate facilities, as it can help to determine which properties might be valuable commodities. According to this data, Davisville Middle School is the most valuable North Kingstown School District parcel, followed by Wickford Middle School. In addition to analyzing properties owned by the school district, a review of surplus town properties was also conducted. A 2015 study and a 2018 study of available town-owned properties were reviewed. Between these two studies, over 150 town-owned properties were looked at. However, very few were suitable for development of a middle school. Of the 150 plus sites listed in the 2015 study, none were larger than 7 acres, and most were not centrally located. For the 2018 study, most of the parcels had development restrictions and likewise were not centrally located for the district. As previously mentioned regarding school property location, there is a concentration of facilities in the north of the district, but few properties are centrally located. This chart provides a side-by-side comparison of each property, looking at developable land, land value, and location. As you can see, very few of the North Kingstown School District properties are centrally located. Most are concentrated in the north of the district. Additionally, most school district properties are valued between $4 and $6 million, with Davisville Middle School approaching the $10 million mark. And finally, while many properties have additional developable acreage, only Stony Lane and Quidnesset exceed the 12-acre minimum needed for a middle school, although Fishing Cove and Davisville Middle School could reach that threshold if the adjacent town-owned lands were considered. So what are the takeaway points? Because many of North Kingstown school properties sit on large sites, there are many opportunities for both expansion and consolidation of North Kingstown facilities, but only a few viable options for locating a new middle school building. If the master plan includes an option for a new middle school, it would need a considerably large parcel to accommodate not only the building, but also the fields, circulation, and parking. And while it would be ideal for this new middle school to be centrally located within the district, there is very limited opportunity to do this. More likely, a new middle school would have to be located at the northern end of the district.